money, your taxes, your truck, and your road to success in the trucking industry. This is Trucking Business and Beyond, the show that puts the money where it belongs, back in your pocket.
Good morning, you beautiful bunch of Fockers, and welcome to my world. I'm your host, Kevin Rutherford. It is Tuesday, August 27th. It's time for the Power Hour. We are here live today. Phone lines are open. Go ahead and start dialing. 855-950-3835. If you're listening on the app, you can hit that call now button. If you don't know what the app is, that's our Let's Truck app for listening to this show live. Plus, you can go back and listen to all the shows we've done over the last several years. So go to your app store, look for Let's Truck, then look for the Audio Road Network app. It is time for the Power Hour today. It looks like I've got Eric and Leroy here, and I think Bruce is going to be late this morning. So we're going to jump right in and get started. Go ahead and start dialing. We'll get to your calls here pretty quick this morning. Eric, Leroy, good morning.
Good morning, Kevin. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. Is Leroy with us?
Not quite yet.
Not quite yet. Does that mean
he's on his way?
Oh, I was going to say, does that mean he's physically in the room, just not awake yet, but he's not even in the room yet?
His sparkling face just graced our presence.
Look at that. All right. We don't have to suffer another minute without him.
Nope. He is here, live and in person.
All right. I got to hear his voice just to make sure it's not a scam.
I am here. I am not AI. I am human generated.
How can you prove that now?
Contacting servers. Contacting servers. Come on, George.
Somebody had AI write a song about me, a country song, and then had recorded it or whatever. I don't even know what you say anymore. Created it, because it was all done with AI. Not only is it really good, I don't know if it was supposed to be somebody's voice. I'm not a big country music fan. I know I'm not supposed to say that being in the trucking industry, but I'm just not. I don't know if it's just an AI generated voice that's supposed to sound like a country music star or if they actually used somebody's voice. It almost sounds to me like they used somebody's voice.
Probably Leroy's.
But the words,
he's got such a voice.
The lyrics were pretty. It was interesting to say the least.
Yeah, I've done a few things on AI like that, where just kind of make a song or make like a tagline or something like that, and it's interesting because I feel like when you first read it, you're like, wow, that's really impressive. But then, like when you critically analyze it, you quickly realize that it's just kind of repeating just very generic things, and it repeats itself a lot, so you don't really get good content out of it. It puts words on a page, and that's about it.
If you learn how to talk to it, it's almost like a human, and that's scary to say. But if you give it the right directions, I will say that when it comes to writing things, it is pretty incredible. But it should be, because really writing is mostly about rules, so that's pretty easy. But it does.
Yeah.
I said that
I've heard of things.
One of the first, I think one of the first occupations that should be worried are doctors. Because if you look at the way, think about the way doctors work today, and it's a shame that's what it is now, but it is. Walk in, you have an appointment, you start to list your symptoms, and the doctor matches those symptoms to a disease. Oh, that sounds like you have irritable bowel syndrome. Let's give you this prescription. I mean, that's what doctors do all day long anymore. They match symptoms to a prescription. AI could do that way better. Because I don't know how, honestly, I don't know how these doctors keep up with all the new drugs that hit the market as fast as they do anymore. I don't know how they can possibly know anything about any of these drugs. I think we should turn the initial doctor visit over to AI and be done with it.
I heard this comment about the whole doctors just push drug things recently, and I'm going to see what you think about it. So, the guy was like, from a doctor's perspective, if you have if the patient has a certain condition, they can fix the condition through diet and exercise and doing all these things, but that's hard for a lot of people. Like they actually have to go out and do that versus if you just give them a pill, it may fix them, it may not fix them, but all they have to do is put the pill in their mouth.
That's
And
absolutely
that's the
a big
reason
part
why
of it.
they,
That is a big part of it. I agree completely, but take it from, let's try to create an analogy for you guys there. Somebody pulls in and says, "Look, I'm sorry, the emissions on this truck, I can't, I'm tired of it, just delete it." Are you going to delete it for them? You will?
yeah, I mean, that's the thing. We wouldn't delete it for them. I mean, some people do,
No,
and then some
right,
people
and
don't. So
that's my point.
I guess that's the difference between good doctors.
Yeah. Is it the right thing to do? No, it's not. And if it's not the right thing to do, we shouldn't do it. Doctors shouldn't give in and say, well, people won't do what we tell them to do. They're going to do whatever, and we just need to give them a pill because it's killing us. And it is more complicated because it's our food supply that this all starts. So we do have to do something about our food supply. The interesting thing is, and we're not going to spend a lot of time on this, but the really, really interesting thing, and this is going to be my show tomorrow, is this is now a very, very big political topic, and I never saw that coming. This just made political headlines everywhere. The health of our country and the health of our children and our food supply and our pharmaceuticals. And this is now a huge political issue when it's never even been mentioned in politics.
Right.
So that's good news. Maybe something will change. But our system right now, absolutely, it is nothing but a profit center. Everything about getting involved in the medical system is all driven by profit. You're going to take this test, you're going to take this drug, we're going to do this procedure, and none of it is designed to make you healthier. There are no drugs on the market that address the root cause of anything. They just cover up symptoms.
Well, no, I mean, you could say that about pretty much any field of business, though, that everybody's just in it for profit. Like, why else would you do it?
See, I don't know if, as long as you take the word "just" out of there, that I don't believe that everybody is in business just for profit. They are in business for profit, no doubt. If you can't, I'm a capitalist. If you can't make money, it's not a business. But
Right.
doctors for generations made money without just being pharmaceutical pushers. The how much money do you want to make? And at some point, doesn't the good of humanity matter a little?
Aren't there some things, it's kind of a tangent thought to this, but aren't there some prescriptions that you have to go on like a documented process of like diet and exercise for several weeks before they'll give you the drug? Isn't that the case in like some of these new things like Ozempic or something like that?
No,
where
it's the opposite.
I mean, I know there's a waiting list, but
It's the
isn't
opposite.
it also you have to like do a bunch of exercise and things before you get it?
No, and you shouldn't. I would be the first one to fight that. Exercise does nothing to help you lose weight. Nothing. We should never associate the two. It's very good for your health. It does nothing for weight loss that's permanent. Because that goes back to calorie restriction. The only reason they want you to exercise is to burn off calories because they believe you ate too many calories. It never works. That's not how the human body functions. We're not a machine. So we should separate those two.
We're pretty burning
Right.
calories.
That's a problem. But it's the opposite for these GLP-1 drugs. Ozempic in that. You need to be a certain amount overweight before they're allowed. So, no, if you actually did the hard work to get ready to take Ozempic, you would never take Ozempic. Because what we should do to get people ready to take it would be just do what you need to do so you don't need it. But that's not how it works. It's the other way around.
Yeah.
In fact, yeah.
I thought I heard.
Let me tell you this. This will freak you out. And this is true. This is not conspiracy theory stuff. This is coming from doctors that I've had on my show. And this is being reported now by many of the functional medicine doctors. If you go in and you want Ozempic and you're not obese enough, or I may even have to rethink that. Oh, no, here's what it is. It doesn't matter anymore. Doctors are allowed to prescribe any drug for any condition they want. They have full free reign. If it's an approved drug by the FDA, no matter what it's approved for, they're allowed to prescribe it for anything they want. It's called off-label prescribing, and it's completely legal. But here's a way to make it really illegal, and this is what doctors are doing. Because it's off-label, if you're not taking it as a diabetic, if you're taking it just to lose weight, that's off-label. The doctor can do it. The insurance company won't pay for it. And these drugs are expensive. So the doctors are now telling their people, if they're scheduling an appointment to come in to see about getting on Ozempic for weight loss, the doctor will tell them ahead of time, before you come in for your fasting blood glucose, you're not supposed to eat or drink anything for 12 hours, eat a donut and drink a soda. You will now be diabetic, and I'll be able to prescribe it to you, and insurance will cover it. How's that for medical and insurance fraud?
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, like you said, some doctors are good doctors and some are bad.
Yeah,
Like,
it's the
I had an
system that's
instance
broken.
when I had an instance when I was a teenager. I was having low blood pressure problems, right? And I ended up going to like specialist or whatever, and they're like, "Well, you have two options. You can eat more salts and gain more weight, or I can give you this pill you have to take 3 times a day for the rest of your life." I was like, well, I'm not disciplined enough to do the bill, so I guess I'll just drink more Gatorade. And it's worked out. So I mean, there are some good doctors that say, you know, this is the way that you can kind of help this, and we'll see how it goes, or I can just give you the pill.
Yeah, I could comment on that story too, but we'll move along. Let's talk about trucks, because I'm going to talk about this all day tomorrow. In fact, if you guys want to join me tomorrow, you can too. We'll talk about it then. What do you got on trucks today?
Eric's going to make.
We got all kind of stuff on deck today.
All right.
We have a 2000 flow coming in here. It's getting a new to me service inspection where we go over the entire truck. We do a Hawkeye report. We can do a dyno run, a manometer, pull an ECM report, just to get a good back history to set a baseline for your records whenever you're buying a new to you truck. We have a big cam we're doing an assembly on. We just got it back from the machine shop. We have a 17 Kenworth in here for some check engine codes. A couple other ones here. We have a Detroit Series 60 we just finished up a front structure on. But the most interesting this week is a 2006 Prevost bus chassis coach, however you want to pronounce it. Met this gentleman through a mutual friend of mine, and he's a local guy here in Pennsylvania. Uses this for almost like a small vacation home to get away, him and his wife. Probably the cleanest Prevost I've ever seen. Open up the back doors to get in the engine bay. Everything is powder coated, painted, shiny, something. Even the bottle jack is powder coated. I was totally blown away at the cleanliness and the prestige of how he keeps this coach. Unbelievably clean. We're going to do a different exhaust on it. We're going to open it up and let it free flow. We're going to do an ECM tune, possibly one of our exhaust manifolds. We're going to see how it looks with the exhaust stuff right now. And we're also going to install a pyrometer gauge in this. This is one thing a lot of people tend to forget about. It gets neglected a lot, is the pyrometer gauge. The gauges are very, very crucial in any trucking industry. Boost and pyro, two most important gauges you can have. pretty much no trucks come with a pyro gauge anymore. Most of them are coming with boost gauges. We're seeing kind of a modern trend in that. But when you're looking into older trucks or trying to restore your older truck, make sure you have the proper equipment. And boost and pyro gauges are definitely part of the standard equipment stuff you need to have. Other than that, that's really all I have here. I mean, a couple DPF cleanings, some tunes.
I mean, it's a good thing we have Ryan, our master, Mr. Motorhome guy.
Yeah.
He's good at those.
Yeah, he's going to hate us.
It seems like he works on all the motorhomes. So
That's because he's the skinniest one in the shop. That's why he has to.
so
he's a victim of circumstance.
we've dubbed Mr. Motorhome.
That's
He's
usually
part
how that
skinny, part
works.
contortionist, so he's part
Yeah,
for the coaches.
Well, he was telling me this morning about getting the turbo, and he's like has one of the rear tires off, and I'm like, "Where are you going?"
Yeah.
He's like, "I'm going to get to the manifold." I'm like, you're kind of going the wrong way. Oh, you got to like tunnel? You're a dwarf, or like where are you going?
The Great Escape Part 4.
Yeah, I've actually seen that.
Hey,
That's a great movie.
I
But
didn't
yeah,
think.
to get to this one, you have to remove the left rear drive tire, and then there's an access panel getting in, which would be adjacent to the radiator and charge air cooler if it's cross flow, of course. But that's how you have to get to the downpipe clamp.
yeah.
It is such a nice way. What it is,
I am
not a nice way.
I am well aware of it. I spend more time working on that damn coach when I travel anymore. I really, had I known more, I would have looked for an older Prevost like the one you're just talking about that I could have afforded. But when I looked at the cost of them, and you look at the cost of the next tier, like Country Coach and some of the others, that really high quality builds, here's the difference. And this is what I learned, but I learned it too late. The Prevost is a bus. I mean, that's what it is. They build those things to go a million miles like they do trucks, and they've been doing it forever, and they've got it all worked out. The Country Coach, even though it's a very quality build, they build their own chassis. That's not a bus frame that's built on. That is a custom chassis they built themselves. And it's really well built, and it's stable, and there's a lot of things I like about it. But what they don't have is they don't have millions and millions of miles of experience to work out things like rubbing lines and hoses, because nobody ever puts those kind of miles on them.
Yep.
The Prevosts are built for the tour buses. That's almost exclusively what they use because they put so many miles on them. They won't use these other RV chassis. They all use bus chassis. And I didn't realize. I thought it's a good quality build that's going to last. Until you get to about 150,000 miles, and then I've never seen so many leaks in my life. And none of them are easy to get to. That becomes the next issue. I had a business model. I'm sure I could make a fortune with this. It's brilliant. I was going to set up a school to train ex-jockeys how to work on RVs when they retire.
Yeah,
I think you're on to something.
I thought it was brilliant. Yeah,
until they.
What's that?
I said until they form a union.
Oh yeah, then they're toast.
Then it's all downhill.
Yeah, then they're toast. Then they're going to the glue factory with the horses. All right, Leroy, what do you got?
Not really a whole lot, actually. I was going to talk about the Prevost a little bit, but I think Eric kind of covered a lot of the things I was going to talk about. The sort of unfortunate thing is it has a DDEC 5 with the VG turbo and the EGR on it.
Oh.
And it's the 14 liter with the non-EGR. That was a fantastic engine. Everyone knows
Yeah, it
that.
was.
But when it comes to specifically performance on a DDEC 5 with the VGT turbo, the turbo is just really undersized. I don't know if it's undersized or if it's sized for EGR. So one of the main purposes of having a VGT on a diesel engine like this is to drive EGR. You need to have some way to control the pressure in the manifold to push EGR into the intake, right? And the way that they have sized it, I think they sized it for more EGR performance and not so much engine performance. And you can only really add like 85, maybe 90 horsepower before you start to really run into some pyrometer issues and coolant temp issues and a lot of other things like that. And specifically being in a country coach, you know how that is with cooling and whatnot. So it's if it had literally probably any other engine, I probably would have been happier.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we just had a conversation about this yesterday that the sizing of the turbo is more for efficiency of the EGR than it is efficiency of the engine, it seems like.
Yeah.
They had to
yeah.
custom tailor it to fit the requirements and restraints for the EPA. And we see it even in the new trucks. You know, the newer the trucks that come in through the door, the smaller the turbos they have.
Right.
I remember when we popped the hood on, I think it was 15. I'm like, holy crap. I mean, that thing looks like it should be belonging on like an 8.3 or something. But
yeah, I think they're down to 64 millimeter on the inducer for an
Wow.
X15.
that's crazy.
And
Yeah.
I mean, some of that is you don't need necessarily as much volatility when you have higher compression ratios. You can keep going smaller and smaller with the turbo.
Yeah.
But it's also just not. It's giving you less gap for improvement, right? They're just really sizing it to be perfect, not just sort of a general size like with a plus or a minus, right?
Yeah.
It has a smaller tolerance, I should say.
It's almost like they're dialing it in. Like before the big masses, you know, Cat, Cummins, Detroit, they would build diesel engines to accommodate everybody. You would have the owner operator, the fleets, the city delivery drivers, everybody, company drivers, everybody in mind, and they would make all different types of makes and models and sizes. Now it's kind of like you either have A or B. Yeah,
Well,
but they've dialed them in. They've almost perfected A and B, but there's really not a whole lot of deviation from there, like is what we used to have before.
and with their new platform, like the new X15s that are coming out, now that Cummins have bought Meritor, they have access to the ABS and axles and this and that, along with their partnership with Eaton. They're trying to sort of mimic what other companies have, like Detroit. They have an all-in-one powertrain, or Volvo has an all-in-one powertrain. So Cummins is trying to get more into that game and supply a truck with their own powertrain, not just an engine. I don't know if maybe that's where sometimes they lack. I know we talk about their engine architecture differences versus others, but I also think that maybe from a design perspective, if you don't have all the other pieces, you don't own all the other pieces like the transmission and axles and things, it might be a little bit harder, and you have to make more of a generic piece than design a powertrain. So that sounds like the direction they're going with the whole system.
I've been talking about this for a while, because you go back, it was really early on that Freightliner bought Detroit, or Mercedes, or I mean, that was such a mess on who was buying who, but Detroit became part of Freightliner, and International started designing its own engines. Volvo was already making its own engines. Mack was making its own engines, and all those same companies started making their own transmissions and their own differentials. The trend has been going on for quite some time, and I've been watching it and saying, when is Cummins going to get on board with this? Because they're not. They haven't done that, and everybody else has. And I've often wondered why PACCAR doesn't buy Cummins, or Cummins doesn't buy PACCAR, or however that would work, and get with the program, because that's where this is going. And now that's kind of what they're trying to do, is put together these partnerships, but it's still not your product. I think they really need to either develop their own or buy these companies.
Yeah, Cummins is just sort of missing the transmission at this point. They have a partnership with Eaton, whatever that means, but that's they have not designed their own transmissions yet. I also don't know if it's a Cummins thing. I mean, Cummins is an engine manufacturer, and they supply things for all sorts of stuff. Versus, I know Volvo has like construction equipment and other things like that, but
cars.
You don't see Volvo engines in as much, Detroit engine as much as Cummins.
No, it's just they are, if you look, it's Cummins and PACCAR that kind of never really got the memo that everything is going proprietary. So now those two are sitting there, and I've often wondered why at some point they didn't merge, one didn't buy the other. It just seemed like the perfect fit.
Yeah. And now Cummins is getting in all this other stuff with hydrogen and buying battery plants. And
I know.
I don't know. Now it's become so diverse that they're not really a jack of all
Right.
trades, master of none kind of a thing. I'm
That-
not sure
that
what their
could be a
direction is
problem.
right now.
Yeah, that could be a problem. All right, should we take?
I
a
think they're
call?
going to come back to.
We'll see. We'll see. Like I said, I really think it would help if they had a captive brand, a captive truck, because everybody else does. I mean, that's what you're buying now, and I don't know. We'll see. Do we want to get to some calls? Bruce should be here in a little bit. I would think.
Yeah, sure.
All right, let's grab a call.